After Charles Young graduated, he became a Buffalo soldier. He was assigned to the 10th Cavalry. He went on to have a remarkable career, highlighted by having many firsts. He was one of the nation's first military attachés, serving that duty in Haiti and later in Liberia. He was the first black in this nation to serve as a national park superintendent, serving as superintendent for the Sequoia and General Grant National Parks, and did remarkable work in that role. He was the first black officer to have a full military career, and he was the highest ranking black of the World War I era. I was drawn to Young in part because of his mentoring work. He greatly enjoyed his teaching assignments at Wilberforce University in Ohio, where he taught military science. There, and later on, he mentored Benjamin O. Davis Sr. and encouraged him to take the officer's entrance exam. As you know, Benjamin O. Davis Sr. became the first black to serve as a general officer. But as I mentioned earlier, it's important that we build bridges. Charles Young graduated from West Point in 1889. Another black American didn't graduate from West Point until 1936. 47 years. 47 years. But what's the link? Charles Young mentored the father who mentored the son, and a bridge was built. We must plant seeds. Charles Young was a risk taker. He was on the board of the NAACP, and many thought that he was destined to be this nation's first black general officer. But on the eve of World War I, he was ordered to take a physical. And this physical determined that his blood pressure was too high. And so, Colonel Young, we need to retire you. Retire. And so, Colonel Young, being a soldier, did everything that he could to use the chain of command and to fight against this in peaceful terms. But he did something that was noteworthy, that he presented his case in graphic terms. He got on a horse in Wilberforce, Ohio, and he rode the 500 miles. It took several days, but he rode the 500 miles to Washington, D.C. to make his case that I'm fit and I'm ready to serve. It wasn't enough. Yes, he was reinstated, but he was reinstated 4 days before the end of World War I. So this man who would have been the nation's first black general officer, for various reasons, was not allowed to fulfill his destiny. But he speaks to us today. He still speaks to us today. He was the second recipient of the NAACP's Fingarn Award. He got that award in Boston in 1916, and when he spoke, he said this: there are two ways to subjugate a black man. One is to convince him that he's worthless and that he's incapable of rising in this world. The second is to persuade him that he is it and that he has nothing left to achieve. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't have to worry about the first issue. We know that we're capable of rising in this world. But we must all be leery of the spirit of it. The spirit of it. The spirit of it is that spirit which says that I don't have anything else to achieve, or I don't need to help anybody. They need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. The spirit of it is that spirit that says I have mine, so you go get yours. The spirit of it. It's a dangerous spirit. It's a dangerous spirit. I am so inspired by those that maybe retired from the military, maybe retired from corporate life, but they go on to serve. They go on to give back. One of those folks is going to be honored in a little while. Chuck Bush, one of the first Black Academy grads from Air Force. Chuck is one of these people. He's a gadfly. He won't let the Air Force or DOD rest. Chuck is retired. But like Frederick Douglass, he's agitating, keeping the pressure on. Why? Because he doesn't believe that he's it. He doesn't believe that he's done. He knows that he still has an obligation to serve. Ladies and gentlemen, you've all heard it said that to those to whom much is given, much is required. It is not just a saying. It is our duty. As I said, Charles Young was a risk taker, and if we want to get beyond the spirit of it, we must be risk takers. I am inspired also by a poem called Dare to Risk. It goes like this. It's by an unknown author. It says, to laugh is to risk appearing the fool. To weep is to risk appearing sentimental. To reach for another is to risk involvement. To expose your ideas, your dreams before a crowd is to risk their loss. To love is to risk not being loved in return. To live is to risk dying. To believe is to risk failure, but risk must be taken. Because the greatest hazard in life is to risk nothing. The people who risk nothing do nothing. They have nothing, they are nothing. They may avoid suffering and sorrow, but they cannot learn, they cannot feel, they cannot change, grow, love, live. Chained by their attitude, they are slaves. They have forfeited their freedom. Only a person who risks is truly free. I'm so proud to be among risk takers. To those who are not taking sufficient risk, I encourage you to take some more. But my time is just about up. I want to be faithful to my promise. I told you that we need to build some bridges. There's a poem by Will Allen Dunn, written nearly a century ago, called The Bridge Builder. And in the poem is an old man who comes to a chasm, and there's a divide there, and he crosses over. And then he starts to build the bridge back to the other side, and someone sees him, a young man sees him and asks him, man, you crossed over. Why are you building this bridge? And I'd like to read to you the conclusion of the poem. It goes like this. The builder lifted his old gray head. Good friend, in the path I have come, he said, there follows after me today a youth whose feet must pass this way. This chasm has been naught to me. To that fair-haired youth may a pitfall be. He too must cross in the twilight dim. Good friend, I am building the bridge for him. The giants that have come before us have kneeled down. They've offered up their shoulders so that we could climb aboard, so that we could look further, so that we could do more. It's up to us to climb aboard and to stand. As Robert Frost said, we have promises to keep and many miles to go before we sleep. Ladies and gentlemen, we have many miles to go before we sleep. Thank you.